Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Nolanda Love.
We met in 1957 when I came to California. My family moved from Louisiana and we started attending Lincoln Avenue Baptist Church, and she and her family were members there, and that's where we met.
Well, I probably didn't notice him so much at first because he was just a few years older than I. And when you're that age, a few years makes a little bit of a difference. But he let me know that his cousins lived across the street from us on Forest. And my first impression is that he was a very nice guy.
Well, there were a couple of things. I was in her father's Sunday school class and her mother's Sunday school class, so I had a good relationship with them. And a lot of us were involved in the music program at Lincoln, and she was the pianist. So at that point, we did a lot of activities together for the church. And I got my driver's license fairly early, so oftentimes she would be one of the ones riding with us. And we were friends, and I was paying attention to her at that time. But like she said, there was an age difference, and so our friends were a different group.
I would say at the church, because we did do so many group things together. And then as I got older, into high school, and he had graduated high school, he then did a little more pursuing of me to be better friends. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I guess, then we started having more interest in one another, and we were allowed to go places together on occasion because my parents approved. They liked him. They liked Joe.
Well, one of the things that prompted the urgency of it was that I was being drafted into the military. I was attending Cal State LA, and I was going to be going to the Army, and so I thought, I really need to do this. And I talked to her mom initially, I think, because her mom was easier to talk to, I thought, than her dad. And then her mom told her dad that I wanted to talk to him about something, and when we sat down to talk, obviously he knew about it, and he was excited about it, and gave me his approval. And from there, the engagement was on. And we had a nice engagement party.
We did. It was during my senior year of high school, before I graduated, that he asked me to, marry him. And so, yes, we had an engagement party, which would have been, I believe it fell February, close to Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Almost, and we got married a year after that. And so I remember being a senior in high school, it's not like you have a lot of funds or anything like that personally. And I remember being creative and making lovebirds and all kinds of decorations for the, party. And after I graduated high school, then we started making a lot of the plans. And being as young as I was, my mother got to make a great deal of those plans, and I'm sure she was happy about that. Most mothers of brides want to do a lot, and so she got to do a lot. And the following year we got married in 1967. Where the concern came in was at the end of that year. He got orders to go to Vietnam. That's when the concern came in. Being a young bride, a young person, and him going that far away. I knew some about the war, but not a lot, other than a lot of our young men here, even in Pasadena, were being drafted, because a draft was on then, and going into the service and going to war. So, but I prayed a lot, and then in that end of that year, we found out that Joe was coming, and I was thinking that perhaps that might change his orders, but that wasn't happening.
No, I missed it. And it was interesting how I found out about it. I was in the field. I was way up on the Cambodian border, and very little communication with anybody. And about 4 weeks after he was born, I got a teletype. I'm dating myself on that one. But anyway, the teletype message said, baby born, they gave us weight, mom and baby are fine. And at the bottom of it said, it just goes to show what a little love can do. And the love was highlighted. And that was from my battalion commander, so I'll always remember that as that communications. It was good news in one sense, but stressful in another, in that my hope was that I'd get to see him. And, you know, I've been in a war situation like that. You never know what's going to happen, and you try not to think about those things. And so it was something that was a bit challenging but exciting news. It was interesting how I got to see him. I came to, Nolanda brought him to Hawaii, and I came from Vietnam to Hawaii to see him on leave. And that was in November, right?
He was 3 months old, yes.
Okay, so he was born in July,
July.
August, September. Okay, so in the
Yeah,
fall.
the first part of November.
And that was good news, bad news too, because I got to see him, but I had to go back. And so those couple of months, I came. I was coming back in January of the following year. So those few months after I saw him the first time were very, very tough months. And it was a time when the war was a lot more intense, and I saw a lot more danger and damaging situations. So it was a tough time. I came home, and I guess I was not working for maybe 6 months or so, and I started working, and I went back to school to finish what I had missed by being drafted out of school. So I was going to school and working full time.
We have 2 adult sons, and we have 6 grands, 3 grandgirls, and 3 grandsons. Oh, we're very active
More than active.
grandparents, more than active. You know, we've pretty much always had the kid seats in our cars, and you know, they love to come and have meals together, so they love for me to cook for them. We attend their sporting events, and now that they're older, that is still the same, because being in middle school and high school and college, they just have different activities. So one family of them lives in Rancho, and so I am on the freeway constantly from Pasadena to Rancho, and I never would have dreamed that I would be doing that. But between going to church now in Van Nuys, living in Pasadena, kids in Rancho, and in Santa Monica, one in college, it hasn't stopped. We've just shifted a little bit, and everyone has a phone, so we enjoy talking with them on the phone. They have fundraisers. They have the work. Sometimes it feels like maybe we're a parent again. Some days, some days it feels that way. But I have a strong belief in intergenerational influence, and a legacy of faith, a legacy of life and learning and love, and that as grandparents, grand figures in our grands' lives and other kids' lives, that it makes a difference in their lives. It makes a difference, and it's going to continue to make a difference. Well, it's every day. I tell young people that now who ask, it's every day God has to be at the center of it. There has to be, you have to work on it every day. It's not just every day. You have to work on it every day. You have to have respect, not just love for the person. You need to have respect. There needs to be a real foundation of trust. Communication is so important, and refreshing that marriage, not just going along as if it's going to just work, because it is work, and you have to work it out. Just like you work out your salvation, you work out a marriage.
On the communications too, it's very different in a marriage. You can't assume that your ability to communicate very well with your peers or in a business environment is going to be the same level of success in a marriage. And I've come to understand and know this very late in marriage, but it's something that you work on all the time. There's something called a love language that Nolanda often reminds me of, and the fact that her love language is very different from mine. And so it's very important to understand what those the individual love languages are, because you may feel as if you're communicating something well and you're communicating something that's good and positive and loving and caring. But at the same time, the receiving person may not necessarily get that same feeling. And so you have to be sensitive to that. And it's something that it's a work in progress all the time.
Black love is important because when you look at the struggles that the African American people have come through, it's important that that we maintain that connection, but not to the exclusivity of other love. But black love has triumphed over a great deal, a great deal. Our story is amazing, and that we have still been able to come together and love, and generations behind us have that as a model, that it does mean something, and it doesn't mean it, like I said, to the exclusion of other love, but it is significant. There's a pride that goes with being able to love a man who has come through all that, quote, black men have come through in this country, black women have come through in this country. And so I feel like you could take great pride in black love.
And I think there needs to be more study and basically research on it, because the news media typically talks about the bad and ill effects of black love. But when you dig down into any segment of the population, you'll find couples, black couples, who are example for all of the rest of the world. To note a few, President Obama and Michelle, and Denzel and his wife, Magic Johnson, to name a few. And some of the other people that we don't see often as couples. We see them on the stage, and we see them when things go awry, but we don't see them when they're living out their lives the way that they do. And there's a lot to be said for the way their lives are lived out, and the wholesomeness and richness of the lives that they live.
I'd also like to add that here in Pasadena, we have a rich history and presence of black love in this city. Examples of couples, you may not ever see them on the screen or read about them in a book, although you might. But we have a great deal of wonderful couples who have worked, who have sown, who have given into this community, whether they're on the police force, whether they're in private businesses of their own, educators. We have the full gamut of couples in this city, rich city, of models of couples of longevity, and wonderful men, wonderful women, wonderful children who are product of these couples who I would say demonstrate black love.